Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man Andy Gillard here. Hope everyone is keeping well in the world right now.
Hi, everybody. Matt Guy here, recording live from the basement of a comedian whose name we can't name for legal reasons. But no, I am in the cave, but I've got a bigger light on this time so people can actually see me.
I don't even know what that means. Hello, everyone.
He's got one of those halo lights that I've only seen like dickheads on fucking TikTok have.
Oh, you were talking about his ring light. That he's yeah. You don't see it because you don't join early enough. It's got different levels to it as well,
Yeah, I
like
can.
skin tone levels.
Yeah, I can make myself a, to quote Boris Johnson, a beautiful blue. I can go blue like I am now. I know this means nothing to people listening along, but
Yeah.
I'm now blue, and it goes so bright. It's absolutely. It's like
Jesus.
I've been. Don't walk into the light. It's really quite frightening.
When you put the blue on, you do look like you're recently deceased. So yeah, probably avoid that one. I think. Yeah, it's great for an audio medium, isn't it? Discussing colours. How are we doing, gents? Have you had a good week?
It's been good. It's been all right. Yeah, buoyed by the victory for Wolves and watching something nice and animated and something that my dear darling wife will watch with me was nice because it meant I didn't have to completely separate my weekend or week into watching something Nick Cage related that I can actually watch with my wife.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I'll watch it today as well. Weird enough, which I never normally do. I'm normally hot on the scene, watching it as soon as possible, so it's fresh in my mind, and I've got time to think it over. But now I thought, I'm going to leave this mainly because I thought, oh well, Man City are going to beat us about 6, so I'm going to need something to cheer me up. But maybe that's kind of what the reasons behind my opinions on this film are going to be, because it was not needed. There was no cheering up needed to be, and as my picture on Twitter yesterday showed, that I was on the Carlsberg, which is never a good idea. So there we are. Right, you know what? We used to drink Carlsberg down the Red Lion because it was the cheap. Well, it was 10p cheaper than Carling. So you think, oh, well, here we are. We live in the dream. And there'd always be me drinking the Berg, as it was affectionately known at the time, and it was the best Carlsberg you'd ever get anywhere. It was like different to every other pub. It actually tasted nice, but there's something about it that it completely fucks you up, because you wake up the next day and it feels like like you've been steamrolled over your head, because it's like it's throbbing worse than anything humanly possible, and it doesn't make any sense because what is it? It's about 3.4. It's 3.4% bad lager, but there's something about it that it must just dehydrate your brain, and
Are you
it gets into you.
are you sure they weren't giving you Kronenberg, not
Oh
Carlsberg?
no, I don't like Kronenberg.
Hate
Kronenberg's
Kronenberg.
nah, it's bland. It's just nah. It's like when we had I, I I know probably why this is the case, because we had some 1664 years ago, when we went to Ipswich away, funnily enough,
Mm.
and I drank 4 cans in the space of hour and a half on the way there, and I desperately needed a piss, but obviously the seal was broken, and then at the time
Straight onto the piss chat again.
you were going to the earnings at this time, 7 minutes. So then we ended up stopping on that god awful A14 like every half hour because into a bush, and you thought, oh well, there's nowhere to pull over, so you get waiting for a tractor entrance or something like that. I thought, nah, never again. So that kind of stuff can stay where it is. Cruise Campo, on the other hand, excellent stuff.
Why? Yeah, in another group I'm in, the Cruise Campo read its head. People saying that this is like the thinking man's Madri, or like I'm
Yeah,
not sure. Like it's just kind of appeared out of nowhere. But is it the the hot new beer in town? What's the story behind it?
it's kind of what Madri pretends to be. Like
Okay.
everyone say, "Oh, Madri, oh, it's this exotic thing," but no, it's actually made it down the road in Burton, just with some kind of chav on the cover on the pump clip. But this Cruz Campo is actually from Sevilla, and it has been for years. It's just been imported over here, so
Hmm.
it's different. It's like kind of like a smooth lager, if that makes any sense at all. but it's actually really nice. So unlike Madry, which is just calling for posers, this is actually nice stuff.
Now, I thought of you, Andy, yesterday, by the way, as I do most days, but for a particular reason yesterday, because I was in Starbucks doing my pre-game prep for commentary, and I looked up at the thing, and I was like, "Fucking hell, a tall, not venti, a big, the largest one, whatever the largest one is." Was like £5.20 or something for a drink for like for like one of the good, like the good ones. And all I could hear in the back of my head was my voice, and on the other side of my head was your voice going, "Well, it's just the cost of a pint, and I probably like this even more. So what does it matter?" But it's absolutely true, isn't it? Like, why should we be ashamed about paying money like that for a coffee when I won't get hungover from coffee? If anything, I'm going to feel great.
I went to Starbucks like shortly after you must have left, to be fair. I was hoping you were still going to be in there. And I had the strawberry acai with lemonade and like the biggest one they do. That's like, if I'm not having coffee, that's my order. It's incredible. Like, I got onto them when I was in New York last year and I've just become obsessed. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, so it was £5.60 for the largest one. And then if you have the lemonade, that's an extra 50p. Otherwise, it's water and it's not quite as good. And then you have light ice in there. And all of a sudden, you're paying like over £6 for a drink. I mean, luckily, like Mum paid for it, so I can't really complain, to be honest. But even so, like I did think twice before having it.
Moral of the story is sponsor us, Starbucks, you cowards. Because
yeah, that's it. Yeah,
we need it. Bank accounts need it.
Yeah, we've moved on from that other brand that will no longer be named after they didn't give us freebies. After the amount of times we fucking plugged them. Yeah. Arseholes. Right, we're here to discuss a film anyway, aren't we? We're here for The Croods, A New Age. Right, so this is a different director to the first one. I haven't got the first one's name, which probably would have helped. But this one is directed by a gentleman called Joel Crawford, which I've not seen any of his other films. They're not the ones that he's directed anyway. But Matthew, you definitely have, because you've seen Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
Oh,
I remember you being a huge fan of.
Man, this all makes sense now because Puss in Boots is a seminal classic for a time, as is Crood too. Yeah, Puss in Boots, the newest Puss in Boots was absolutely tremendous. It was fantastic. I spoke about it very highly indeed. A really like funny film that was actually had a deep underbelly, soft, furry underbelly underneath that was of a lot of heart. I know Stu straight away thinks this is woke nonsense. I could just feel it coming through the screen, but we'll get onto that later. But yeah, the latest Puss in Boots was tremendous.
This guy's done a lot of work as like within the art department and everything, so he's clearly very much an art animated kind of a guy. Everything on here, we've got Trolls, Lego Movie 2, Kung Fu Panda 3. I didn't realise they even made a 2, let alone a 3. But yeah, pretty much everything on his list of work is very much animated. Stu, did you ever get around to seeing Puss in Boots? Was it 3 or 4? I don't even know what number that was. The Last Wish.
No, mainly because it was hyped up so much, and it's like one of the things because it was. I thought, well, if I go in now and it's not what I think it is, it's just going to make me angry or disappoint me. So I just going to left it alone, and inevitably, it's just going to be Paddington 2 levels within a few years when he gets this kind of notoriety and he gets shown on Christmas Day inevitably somewhere.
Yeah.
So I will watch it, and I did kind of plan on with Shrek being back as well and going through all of them again at some point, especially with a child of that kind of interest age now, watching these kinds of films. And he was kind of glancing over my shoulder watching this morning. But no, it wasn't. It wasn't just Matthias there who was enjoying it as much as he did. There was loads of people love that film, so it's no surprise to me when it will get talked about like this. So, but in a way, that's put me off after I watch this.
You can't be a hipster to Puss in Boots, though.
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen it, but mine was more. I just didn't have time to watch it before the Oscars because obviously it was one of the ones that was nominated. I think I'd watched all of the others and just ran out of time to complete the animated category. But like Stu said, because of the Shrek coming back. Oh, which reminds me, have you seen the Shrek Crocs that you can buy now?
They're amazing.
I have not.
The
Right.
little things that stick out.
Yeah, so you know what a Croc is, don't you, Matt?
Oh yeah,
The
I know what
shoe,
Croc
yeah.
is, yeah.
So they have got Shrek versions of these shoes, right? Google it if you're listening to the podcast so that you can see what we're talking about. Matt, I'm hoping this picture actually comes up so I can show you. Okay, so... Oh, no, it's just gone off. There we go. Right. So that is what they are now selling. So for the people, they have a brown rim around the back, a brown furry rim around the back, and you've got 2 ears either side like Shrek's, and there's a nose on these Crocs, and they are green coloured. So because I quite like trainers, so I get notifications from StockX of any of the hot new trainers that are coming out. And these Crocs came through the other day, and they're going for like £100+ in my sizes to get these fucking Crocs. It is insane how much people really want them. I didn't realise people cared that much about Shrek, but clearly they really do.
How many have you bought them?
Yeah, I will not be getting a pair. I don't even own a pair of like proper Crocs. I own some Urban Essentials that when I was in New York because my feet were fucking blistered to fuck last year, so I needed to buy something that I could wear that wasn't going to kill my feet. So I bought these $20 their own made version of it, and to be fair, they are good. But no, I'm
some
of
the
not
youths
Crocs.
that I manage at work really talk about Crocs like they're the greatest invention to man, much like in Croods 2, the invention of the sandal. And I've never tried one, much less put them into sports mode, as people call it. So I mean, maybe I will one day. Again, sponsor us, Crocs, you cowards. Send me a pair to try on. I'll give you a review.
I remember when Crocs came out in probably about 2008 or so, something like that. And they were really popular, and then everyone took the piss out of Crocs.
They
and
now
now all of a sudden,
footwear, didn't they?
They did, and now all of a sudden it's gone full circle. But I've got to say, the new Crocs that are coming out, I think Echo Storm, I think they're called. They look fucking dope. Like I really want a pair of them. They look really nice. They're a bit like the Yeezys, but this isn't trainer chat anyway. Let's move back to the film.
For context, for the good people, how many pairs of Jordans do you own?
I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got five Jordans, 3 pairs of Dunks, and yeah, I've got like Adidas Superstars and some Van Crayola trainers, and I've got quite a few. To be fair, I am a little bit obsessed when it comes to footwear. Like that was the worst thing about working in JJB Sports way back when. Like giving me a discount to buy trainers was always
very much enablers of your addiction.
Yeah, it really was.
And yet and yet you're still saying no to Crocs after all this.
I mean, I'll probably get a pair at some point. I know I will. I know what I'm like. Yeah. Oh, I haven't even mentioned like the number of Converse that I own. Like that's easily into double digits. Easily, just too many. Right, Croods 2. Let's get back to it. Matt, I remember you enjoyed the first film. Were you hoping for more of the same, bit of evolution? Ironically speaking, what were you hoping for here?
Yeah, I was just hoping for. I really worried that it wouldn't be able to capture some of the magic of that first one. The dynamic of the story was really strong. That whole family connection and a changing of the times and everything like that, interspersed with some of the funniness and some of the humor, especially from Belt, that was really, really good in the first film. And I worried that, as with most sequels, because this film is, the first one was one of the greatest animated films that no one's seen. So I just thought that it won't have captured that going into the second one. That was my fear going into this.
Stu, what about yourself? I remember you were all 3 of us enjoyed it, didn't we? If I remember rightly. So what were you hoping for here?
Yeah, the amount of people who I talked to afterwards, who had watched it but had just never spoke about it.
Mm.
And you think, well, why? And you go, oh, it's just one of them, you go with the kids and you enjoy it, and yeah, but you don't always enjoy it, do you? Like my tale of the latest TMNT film where they just went there to piss about. But yeah, I was just hoping for more of the same. If it was the same, if it was like a paint by numbers, see like a replica of the first film in a different scenario, that would have been good enough for me. But again, obviously only knowing the title and nothing more, I was going in with a blank slate.
Yeah, I mean, literally all I knew about it was that it had the same people in. Like, I did absolutely no research before going into this film with this one because I enjoyed the first film so much, and I didn't know anything of it really, other than I remember it being in the top 10 of the UK charts for absolutely ages. I thought, I'll do the same again this time. I'll go in, I'll have no expectations, but I just hope that we get a repeat of it. Just something as, like Matt said, as endearing and nice as the first film. So with this one, IMDb describes this film as the prehistoric family, the Croods, are challenged by a rival family, the Bettermans, who claim to be better and more evolved. So the film begins with a young guy moments after his family have died in a tar pit. They tell him to follow the light and find tomorrow. We get a little bit of his story until the first time which guy meets Eep, which is where he comes into the first film. They give us a quick recap in what looks like a cave person drawing form, part of which is Eep talking about having feelings for Guy and how he is now part of their family unit. We then get a quite exciting chase sequence where some kangaroo armadillo looking things are hunting them down whilst the Croods are trying to escape on their giant saber-toothed tiger thing. It was quite an exhilarating start, I thought. Like, they really went breakneck speed out of the gates. I really liked that. I thought it was really well done, and visually it was enticing. Yeah, really enjoyed it. As part of this sequence, we see Eep and Guy constantly trying to go off and do their own thing, but Grug is always pulling them back into the pack. In their never-ending search for tomorrow, the Croods have become hungry, and Grug in particular tetchy, mostly with the idea that Eep and Grug might one day go off and start their own pack. That night, Guy tells Eep he wanted to start their own private pack, just the two of them. Grug overhears. He goes for a walk to clear his head and stumbles across a gigantic walled city. Inside the walls, food is plentiful, the sun shines and the brooks babble. After gorging on the fruits, Grug notices the most beautiful fruit of them all, a banana. Before he manages to get to the banana, the family are caught in a net. It was a trap. Their captors have come along, Phil, Hope and their daughter Dawn, the Bettermans. They know Guy, he grew up with them, and they're effectively upper-class, pompous twits. They invite the Croods in. Their only rule, you're not allowed to eat the bananas. That was 20 minutes. They got a lot of story in and got us exactly where we needed to be to start it. Perfect start to a film in my books. Stu, what do you think?
Yep, great. The whole cat as a car thing, when they're revving it up and all that stuff, just funny. I know we had it a little bit in the first one, but what I just said about 5 minutes ago about more of the same, this was more of the same. It was them as a family unit doing silly things in wild, unrealistic situations with massive colours and kind of borderline explosions going on, and it was great. The whole thing about them being what they are, as soon as they strolled in with his hair like that, I thought, oh, this is going to be great, because you just knew. And I think the banana thing I kind of worked out here already. It's not really hard, is it? I mean, you've seen enough of these kind of things anyway, but I presume that was the reason why he said don't eat the bananas. It was either that, it was going to be a dream, or what ends up happening. But yeah, this far in, I mean, it's a third of the film, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, it went really quick. Sadly, I could have had another half hour. Spoilers. I could have had another half hour of it. But yeah, this section in particular went really fast.
Matt, I don't know why, but the scene where Guy grabs what he thinks is Eep's hand and kisses it, but it turns out it was Grug's. I imagine Matthew Guy having a little giggle at that. I don't know why. I think that's right up your alley for some reason.
It really was. I don't. Yeah, there were some proper laugh out loud moments in this film, and that was one of them. Some of that silly slapsticky type humor as well. I loved the uh, what's the word I want to? What is the word? The continuity between the young guy growing older, going and then meeting Eep, and then taking you into the film, and then just showing. They didn't drag that out at all. It was really the jumping into the chase sequence with the I can't remember the armadillo. They weren't armadillos. They were like I can't
The
remember what they were.
kangaroo armadillo things. Yeah.
Kangadillos
Pangadillos or
or whatever they
something.
were called. That was great. And then getting to the city was all done quick. It was almost like almost like a film was made for children the way it should be. Let's not dilly dally with things, hold on to them for too long, use unnecessary amount of dialogue and stuff. Let's just get to the point as quickly as we can, move on to the next things, keep it quick, snappy, tight. And I think it worked really well. And then the second you see the Bettermans, you just know that they're dickheads from the first time you see them. And like Dinklage just did such a good job of
Yeah.
coming across, making them come across like pompous arseholes from the very off. And I was there with a beaming smile on my face every time he said something. And
Yeah.
this is only what 5 years old. This film, 5-6 years old. So it
2020.
did. 20, so even less. So
Mm.
it really tapped into some of the like infuriation you get from like celebrities and certain characters that we have now with like that man bun and sandals and stuff like that. So yeah, I really enjoyed the first kind of 20 or the first third of this film. I thought it was really good.
I also thought Leslie Mann as Hope Betterman. I thought she bought that because I think when you see Leslie Mann in other films, she does when she plays a mother character, she does come across as something of a, like I say, a bit of a pompous twit. She's got that character down pat. Like, I know we didn't particularly like The Bubble when we saw that one, but like she brought that character to this, and it worked really well. So yeah, the Bettermans, both of them, I thought were they got their characters perfectly. It was great. The Bettermans look down upon the Croods. They don't like that Guy is close to Eep. They want him to stay and be with Dawn, but the Croods should not remain with them. The Bettermans quickly treat Guy to a better life of showers and vanilla smells, pushing Eep away in the process. In her isolation from Guy, Eep becomes friends with Dawn, who reveals that she is also isolated. Her parents have mollycoddled her. She doesn't even have a scar from any adventures to talk of. Not like Eep, who has dozens of scars, including a peanut shell she wears to replace her missing pinky toe. Eep and Dawn take off on the saber-toothed tiger, riding around, jumping over animals, having a blast away from their families. There is an accident and Dawn gets stung by a bee, getting her first ever scar. In their attempt to get rid of the Croods, the Bettermans plant a seed of an idea to make them miss the life they had before Guy. When the Croods figure out that they've been manipulated, they try to break the one rule and eat all of the bananas. When Eep and Dawn return, they run into Guy. Dawn's bee sting has made Dawn high as tits. Guy is angry that Eep took Dawn out because Dawn is not a cave girl. Eep is furious at his condescension, and after the families argue, the Croods decide to leave the Bettermans and Guy alone. As a parting shot, Grug tells Phil they've eaten all of the bananas. Phil tells Grug and Guy that the bananas are the secret to their safety. The monkeys come every night for their banana sacrifice. When the bananas aren't there, the monkeys attack, kidnapping the three men. The remaining Croods decide to go and find the trio, and Dawn defies her mother, saying she wants to go rescue Grug, Phil, and Guy as well. On their journey to find the men, Gran tells them of the times where she was a member of the Thunder Sisters. The trio were taken by the Punch Monkeys, who explained that they used the bananas themselves as a payment to keep the King Kong version of a baboon happy. That's an hour into this film. Like, I mean, we've only got a third of the film left to go, But it just feels like that middle part actually is so packed, so tightly packed, with so many gags and so many elements that just move this film along constantly. There's no like stopping to smell the roses with any of it. And in some ways, I think that's really good. And in other ways, I think maybe they could let a joke land. But I think, as you said, Matt, it's a film that is clearly made for children. And they don't want to let kids just sit and wait for something. They just want to give them the next bit and the next bit.
Mhm.
And it works so well through this middle portion of the film. What would you say, Matt? What do you reckon?
Yeah, it was very frenetically paced, and it was go 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 all the time. It was almost verging on exhausting trying to keep up with that. Combined that then with like the spectrum of colours that were flying at you at all times, and the actual what was going across the screen, etc. I loved that like sauna scene where he plants the idea in his head. I don't know if this was intentional, but I've watched that series recently. There was a one that it was Dinklage, funnily enough, who did it the first time around. How to Be a Dictator on Netflix, and there's now How to Be a Cult Leader on Netflix.
Yeah.
And there was so many elements of like Charles Manson in Betterman. Believe it or not, there really was.
Yeah.
Like a cult leader trying to like he was like gaslighting him and all sorts. Like it was just it was really well done, and it was more like more character development that we've seen in the kids' film that we've seen in like hard hitting Oscar baity nonsense by making them try and understand how bad a person the Bettermans are, and then bringing in like these weird family dynamics, and then they have that arguing scene with each other where they're all the conflict is amongst. They explain it really well. All the intertwining arguments that all the different people are having, like it's done really well, far better than a children's film should be done. I was watching this thinking, this is fantastic. I'm really enjoying this. I didn't think they'd be able to top the first one. And at least up to this point, we think they're doing a fantastic job with it.
Stu, what about yourself? Is it on a par? Is it better than the first one? 2/3 into the film, are you still really enjoying it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was... there was one of the moments where I was sitting there thinking, if you were watching this in the cinema, there's no way anyone would have been pissing about and looking away from it, because, like what Matt said, you don't have time to think. And that you are bombarded constantly. There's always something else going on, and it's very, very tightly edited. And I think that's apparent. And what I said earlier about it could be another half hour. It probably could be if it was stretched out for us. But I fully understand why an hour and 36 it is the length it is, because you're going from one thing to another, and then obviously what we come on to in a minute with the punch monkeys, that how that is cut over and over again, really, really fast, and you don't get worn out by it. It's every single bit is enjoyable. I mean, the bee sting thing was genius, absolutely genius. How she's coming back from a night out pissed, but actually like, it's just a bee sting. There's so many clever things in this film that we'll come to later, but I was sitting there with a smile on my face. I don't think it's as good. Personally, I don't think it's as good as the first one. Maybe that's because the first one was such a surprise, and this had something to live up to. But it's also a very different film to the first one. It's cleverer than the first. I don't think it's quite as entertaining, even though what I just said, how frenetic it is.
Oh, you make a good point in the next scene. I haven't really got a lot to say in the last bit because it does go quite fast, but like the editing in some big action blockbusters that we've seen, even going to like some of the Fast and Furious stuff, which I know we enjoy, Stu, that can be exhausting watching a frantically paced edit kind of a film. And they achieve that in this film as good, if not better, than some big summer blockbusters. I was really impressed with that, to be honest. I thought that was a fantastic end to the movie. So, to make the Kong happy, the monkeys dress the three boys up as bananas. As the Kong approaches, the men have a heart-to-heart. They accept each other and all of their flaws. They become bros. Just before the Kong is able to eat the boys dressed as bananas, the girls rock up and save the day. Guy confesses his love for Eep, tells her that she is his tomorrow. Following their rescue, we see the little punch monkeys living in harmony with the Bettermans and the Croods. Everything is in harmony. Guy and Eep leave to spread their wings. I haven't given a lot of information on the last. I mean, there's not a lot to say, but at the same time, I really want people to go and see this film, much like I want them to see the first Croods, because they're so much more interesting than I think a lot of the reviews at the time and a lot of the advertisement that was out really gave either of them for. So I do kind of hope that people give this one a chance. I think it was a good film. Matt, how did you feel in the end of the third act?
Yeah, it slightly tails off towards the end, except for the big thing that really got a smile on my face was once they'd all like the whole Wigasus stuff really tickled me. Really tickled me. I don't know why it did. And then they're all given names. They're all given their the Thunder Sisters are given names, and then they have that. And like I remember seeing it in the first Borderlands when you went to the first boss, and it would like give this stop title card screen of the boss's name, a little caption underneath, and they do that in this. It does all of the different names of them and everything else with their own individual like art and logos and stuff, as if it was like a comic book strip. And I was just there with this massive smile on my face, and it was really entertaining stuff. And then for it to have that little toe thing be the MacGuffin, here, was quite fun as well at the same time. I think it trailed off towards the end. Like, I don't think story-wise, which had this, there's so much like theme-wise going on in this film, it does kind of go by the wayside purely for action in the last little bit of the film, which is a bit of a disappointment. But I was really enjoying it nonetheless. I was, it was a fun romp the whole way through.
I liked in the scene that you were just describing about them being given their new names as members of the Thunder Sisters. When Gran renamed Thunk as Thunk, that really tickled me. I don't know why, but that really got a titter out of me. I thought it was great. Stu, the final act, how are you feeling?
That whole thing with Thunk and the window, it's so stupid, but it was brilliant at the same time. And how when they're sitting there, no windows at the table, you think, yeah, we know exactly what you're talking about. It's very Flintstones. But obviously that it wears their influences very, very much on its head, really. But yeah, I think it's 3 for 3. Where I don't think the third act was as strong as the other two. Did it need to be after the hour that we'd had before? Probably not really. I think we all knew what was coming with the Monkey Boys. But the whole fun, the Thundercats like title sequence was pretty good. I did have a little giggle to myself at that. It was almost Pokemon like as well, which I know that you could completely over your head, hadn't it? But
no idea.
for the vast majority of the listeners, who normal people who love Pokemon, experience it at some point in their lives, they know exactly what we're talking about. It is very anime. And that kind of battle sequence, but yeah, it was just fun, wasn't it? The whole point of the whole thing was fun. The whole female empowerment. I know Matt about the wokeness of it. It's as you put this in front of someone on the old Brexit bus, and they'd have a meltdown because there's so many things in here about female empowerment and equality and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, fine, it's a kids' film, whatever. But it was done really well. It was done really, really well. And these things can either get sickly sweet and too in your face, but this was so blatant that I thought it was well done, actually. I'd never normally enjoy this kind of stuff when it was so obvious like this, but I did. I don't know what that says about me or says about this film, but it just worked. It didn't seem out of place.
Yeah. Because they did the female Avengers scene effectively, didn't they? That's what it was, and they did it better, and it was much more interesting. Didn't feel convoluted, whereas it does in the Avengers film. this felt very natural the way it was because of all of the characters, how they've been throughout the film. Is they've been very, like, Gran's always been batshit crazy, but she's always the first one in a fight. Eep's got the fire in her, and like the way the characters grow and everything, like I said, it felt natural for them to become the saviors at the end of it. It was really well done, I thought that. But I also agree with you, Matt. It sort of came down under the weight of its own themes towards the end. I think as soon as they were rescued, then from that moment onwards, it was just a case of we need to have a big fight at this point, and that's where it lost it a little bit for me.
And thematically, it was as subtle as a 9-inch glittery dildo in your Weetabix, wasn't it? It just didn't want to hide itself at all. It was just everything it wanted to be was on its sleeve. Everything to do with its themes and the female empowerment side and everything like that. But because of that, it doesn't feel like it was like preachy or anything like that. It was just done really well, And I go back to when I was talking about kind of how the Bettermans were just making Eep and her family feel like shit. It was just, if I could describe to a kid, like, and I will, like in the future, like about how like the themes of family and everything else work and stuff like that. Like this would be a great example of how to do it because it was just so well done, as delicately as like a monster truck, but it works because it is in keeping with the massive colour and the pace and everything else. Is all in keeping. Very frenetic, but it is in keeping.
I think in some respects that's why Super Mario Brothers worked so well for the audiences, because it didn't offer subtlety. I think that's why it doesn't work on a critical level, because critics generally like something a bit newer and something a little bit, a bit better told when it comes to stories. But this is very much like the Super Mario Brother movie in my eyes, in that it does just it does what it says on the tin, sort of thing. There's no fuss, no muss, kind of, and I appreciate that in this movie. It works really well because of it. So the budget on this film was only $65 million. I say only because the first Croods was estimated to be between 135 and 175 million to produce.
But that's got to be an asset thing then, surely. They've already got the assets, and this one could be made cheaply. Yeah,
quite possibly. The box office wasn't quite as healthy as the first Croods, which hit 587 million. This one only got 216 million, which is still an incredible return on 65 million. Plus, it was released November 2020, which, as some people may recall, was in the middle of something weird going on around the world. I remember this film was in the top 10 because I've listened to the Kermode and Mayo podcast, and they go through the British top 10 every week. And this seemed to be in there for absolutely ages. I think the only time it went out around the time of the Oscars. It was in there for a good sort of 5-6 months. It really did just seem to keep going and keep going. So I had a look on IMDb at the top-rated animated sequels after you'd mentioned it yesterday, Matt. I have got the 10 top-rated animated sequels. Would you care to have a guess at what you think might be in the top 10?
Well, you mentioned a couple anyway, didn't you? So you mentioned Toy Story 2 and you mentioned Shrek 2, I think it was. Did they tickle the list?
So Toy Story 2 is on a 7.9 and it is the third highest animated sequel. Shrek 2 doesn't crack the top 10. Stu, any ideas?
What? That blows my mind. How can Shrek 2 not be there? Hang on, is this CG animated or all animated?
It's all animated, but looking at it, all of the answers are CG. Well, yeah, they're all CG animated.
Cars 2.
No Cars 2. So, number one, and I don't think this is a surprise, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It is 8.7. Like, it's not only is it the top rated animated sequel, it's the top rated animated film. Like it's Toy Story 3 is on an 8.3, so that's in second place. Number 4 is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, How to Train Your Dragon 2, Toy Story 4, The Incredibles 2, Lupin 3: The Castle of Cagliostro, which I never heard of, Sing 2, and How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World are the top 10 animated sequels. I've seen probably half of those, I think. Yeah, seen about half of them. Anything any good on there that you can think of, Matt, or is...
No, not really. Where the fuck's Wreck-It Ralph? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, like the first Wreck-It Ralph is in the top 50 animated films, but the sequel's just not. Was it Ralph Breaks the Internet, is it? Is that what it's called? Yeah, that was nowhere to be seen, but I really enjoyed that as well. Stu, anything in particular catch your eye in that list?
Sing 2's okay. Sing 2, it's not bad.
I enjoyed the first one.
Yeah, it's more of the same, really. It's not nowhere near as good, but it's a good waste of hour and a half. I think something like that. That was another one. It seemed to go past really quickly when it could have dragged. But it doesn't surprise me at all that it's on there.
Yeah,
I've never seen any of the How to Train Your Dragon stuff. I think Ash might have.
Yeah, Ash likes them.
Yeah, it's just I don't know why, because there's so much of it that you can just jump in at the start and enjoy yourself forever. But it's just never been for me. Some of that stuff on there, no. I mean, I've probably seen about 3/4 of it by the sounds of things, but yeah, thank God that Cars 2 is not on there because that is one awful film.
I don't think I've seen that either, to be fair. Right, okay. So what do you think the scores critically and from the audience will be on this out of 10 out of 100? Stu, what do you reckon? Oh, just as for way of comparison, the first Croods film on IMDb is a 7.2, if that helps you whatsoever.
I mean, the way you two have been talking about it today, it's kind of doubting myself because I don't think it's as good as the first. But then when am I ever right about this stuff? Critically, I'd probably say less than the original, so around high 60s. Audience, I'll say more because I don't think it is, so I'll go against myself just for no other reason other than that. Personally, I don't think it's as good as the first, but I'll bow down if it is.
Matt, what do you think?
I'm going to say 70, high 60s, early 70s, only because I think I don't think there'll be enough people to have reviewed it. And I think the only people that, like I've said so many times before, the only people that go on like reviewing aggregate websites or anything like that are lunatics. And they probably don't like this for the reasons that we do like this. So yeah, I can't see it have done that well, if I'm honest.
Interesting. So the first film was a 7.2 on IMDb, and on Rotten Tomatoes it got 71 critically and 77 audience scores. So for the sequel on IMDb it got 6.9, so slightly lower but not massively. The audience score was 94%, so quite a lot more than the first film, and critically it was 77, so only 6% more, but so in the same ballpark. I think generally speaking then, so your IMDb and your critical score, they're very similar to the first one. And I sort of agree with that, if I'm being honest. I think they're on a par almost for me. So the critical response, Mark Kermode, passable fare, but not much more than that. You will forget it the minute you see it. Tara Brady from the Irish Times, for all that empowerment, one cannot help but yearn for the sexist tropes and superior cavemen jokes of the Flintstones. Kath Clark from The Guardian, a new age, not really, but the sequel does feel like a rung up of the evolutionary ladder from 2013's The Croods. And Clarice Lockery of The Independent, in defiance of this vague sense of pointlessness, The Croods, a new age, manages to feel like a genuine creative endeavour and not a last resort. The maniacs at Amazon.com loved this film though. It got a 4.7 out of 5 with 94% giving it a 4 or a 5-star review. This is up there with some of Cage's best, according to Amazon. There is only one-star review from Julian W. Not happy as not described, no mask and not in cardboard sleeve. So I'm guessing when they were doing it, there must have been some toy that came with the original DVD, and he doesn't like that he didn't get that toy, so he gave it a 1-star review. There's one 2-star review as well from Martin Chorley. We loved Croods movie, but this sequel is a big letdown. We had big expectations, but were well disappointed. It was a very junior school girly humour. But as I say, the vast majority loved it. They were praising the bright, vivid colours, the fun voice acting, humorous jokes, and the enjoyable, familiar message behind it all. So the good, the bad, and the crazy. Matt, kick us off, please.
So the good is a spectrum of colour on display. You know, I thought it was absolutely stunning once again to watch. It just had everything. Like the colour palette was beautiful, and I'm someone that struggles with my reds and greens.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I don't, you know, they can blur into one for me. And I just thought it was again another really visually beautiful film, made especially so by the fact that even in the franticness of what goes on, you can still pinpoint intricacies. It was really, really good like that. The bad for me really was, how do I put this? What it sacrificed in its story, which I really enjoyed at the end for the sake of have that punchy ending, was just a bit of a kick in the knackers, because I think it really had something on the story element of it. I think it had a really strong story in its core about the relationships between father and daughter, and the relationships between, you know, wanting to leave the nest and everything else. Like they were really strong themes around family, and then it kind of just felt like, well, it's all wrapped up in a neat little bow tie, the knot, and we're done at the end. And that was a shame. I think, you know, and I understand why they did it that way, because kids don't care about that shit. Mm-hmm. We might do, but when you know, it's not made for us, is it? Never the day. So I can understand it. The crazy is that they had what I think was not one, but 2 original songs by Jack Black in the credits. And he doesn't appear in the film whatsoever.
Yeah.
It would have been made for him to appear in that film. The second I heard his voice, I was like, holy fuck, that's Jack Black. Was he in the film? Quickly scrambled in and everything else. Like, he should have had a prominent role in this. I don't know if he was never offered a fee, whatever, but why have him in the credits and everything else? For him not to be involved in the project was bizarre.
As soon as I heard the I Think I Love You cover by Jack Black, I thought, fuck, Jack Black would have been perfect for this movie. I don't know what role I want him in, but he would have been perfect, because he feels like a caveman, almost like a comedic caveman. That's his thing, isn't it? So yeah, it just kind of would have worked perfectly, but there we are. Stu, what about yourself, mate?
I mean, that was kind of my crazy as well, the music. I mean, you had a little section of True for no reason at all.
Yeah.
Like 5 seconds. Well, why? They must have paid a license fee for that, and it made no real sense at all. And I thought, is this going to be one of these where, like Deadpool, where you're going to have licensed music, and it's going to be one of these? But it really wasn't at all. And like normally with these things, we talk about the soundtrack and the music, but he hasn't even been mentioned until now. And it didn't even occur to me one bit to talk about the music in this film, other than the 3 songs that were kind of all the way through, and the Jack Black one at the very end. I can't even remember anything about it, which is weird. Considering I watched it less than 10 hours ago, and it's just one of them where the soundtrack was so nondescript and just in the background, literally, that it makes no difference. If you played that now, if that came up on Spotify or wherever, I'd have no idea what it was from, other than the songs that were mentioned. The good, again, I didn't want to watch this projector-wise. I wanted to watch it on a proper 4K HDR telly for that reason, because it's stunning. It looks better. It's like you're talking Avatar levels of colors in this,
Mm,
and uh, you can say what you want about Avatar, but it's a gorgeous looking film,
yeah.
and this is the CG cartoon equivalent of that. It's perfect. Um, the bad, I don't really have one, which is strange. When I think the bad was you two saying it's better than the original, which kind of created my judgment. This first thing this morning. That's the only thing I can think because I did thoroughly enjoy it. Tailing off at the end a little bit maybe, but to be expected. I've got nothing bad to say about it. It's really really good.
Perfectly serviceable for what it is, isn't it? My good, I echo both of your sentiments. I thought visually it looked fantastic. The first time when they go from being outside of the city where everything's a bit grey and desolate and then they go inside the city walls and you've got these multicoloured melons and blue strawberries and just the colour just slaps you in the face and it's so bright and it's so vivid and it's incredible and it just looks beautiful. I think it was gorgeous. Loved it. Really well done. Bad. They pack so much into that middle. It's almost a little bit too much. Like it's verging on excessive. The amount of little threads they've got going on at points. And as you said, Matt, because they tie it up so quickly in the end, you don't get a resolution to everything almost, and it does leave you feeling a little bit dissatisfied. Like I wanted a little bit more of Dawn Betterman, of Kelly Marie Tran's character. Like you just need a little bit of something because I feel like you've skipped over a bit of an emotional beat there between her and her mother.
Yeah.
They had tension between them and it was resolved really really quickly, like too quickly almost. And I feel like and maybe this would come to, like Stu said, about getting a little bit more time on it, maybe an extra 10-15 minutes just to let some themes breathe a little bit more, I think might have worked better, personally. My crazy, though, apparently after this film, DreamWorks went on to produce an animated series called The Croods Family Tree. There's a few names in it that you might recognise. Like Kelly Marie Tran reprises her role as Dawn, but pretty much the rest of the cast, Dee Bradley Baker is in it, who you'll know from Family Guy and American Dad. But there's not many names. None of the other big names return for it. I mean, that's not entirely crazy on its own. However, this new series started in 2021, and in the 2 years since it has started, there has been 7 seasons of this animated series.
What? Oh, wow.
So yeah, they've been pumping them out in the 2 years since. So, did you enjoy the film, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. Thought it was tremendous. You know, me saying it's better than the first one might just be because this one's so fresh in my mind. They're equal, at least for me. Really had a good time with it. Was very surprised. Based on the box office, will we see them again in that format? Possibly not. And I don't know where they'd go. You know, unless it's an extinction event, an actual extinction event, but. For a kids' film, can you really kill off characters like that? Like actually kill them off? Would be a bit weird, wouldn't it? So, but yeah, I did thoroughly enjoy it.
Stu?
Yeah. It's it didn't need to be the pick me up that I intended it to be. So I enjoyed it on its own merit, and it was very very enjoyable. And I think. After the Land Before Time, anything's possible. But again, that was a long time ago, and I think it might be a bit too hard for today's audiences. But I do kind of hope we do get a third somehow, in some form. Having that many, I mean, you're talking like One Piece. It's getting that long if we start having 7 seasons of the Croods to watch through. That's just not going to happen. Regardless of how long the episodes are, it's just too much. No way. We need a third.
There's no
third
cage,
film.
so there's no cage. So we don't need to watch that. We'll be fine.
No, third film. That is all. But yeah, very enjoyable way to spend a Sunday morning.
I'd quite like to see a third film. like you've both said, I have no idea where they'd go, but I'm not being paid to be the creative on it, so I'm sure they can come up with something as equally as fun and irreverent as these films have been. I don't think it's better than the first. I think the first probably edges it, but we are talking like one might be 90% and one might be 89%. Like they're very close together. They were both really enjoyable films, so yeah. Based on this film and this film alone, was Nicolas Cage good or bad? Stu?
Um, we haven't even mentioned him, and yeah, there's typical Crazy Cage moments in there, and he's good at what he does, but I don't think he's essential. You could recast him with Jack Black, and it'd be fine. So strangely tough one. I am going to verge on yes, just for the sake of it, because it is enjoyable and it's still very much, especially with the interactions with the Bettermans and stuff like that, and the sauna bit. That was pretty good. So yeah, he was good. Just
Matt, what do you think?
See, on the other side now, like after the first one, I couldn't think of it being anybody else other than Cage. I don't know if it's just because of this project that we've got, but I just think like he adds some of the silliness to like the dialogue that he's given. He just adds a little bit extra spice to it. So yeah, I think he's good in this, but he's not the star of the show in this film, is it? The first one, the first one was his ability to adapt, and that was the story. This isn't about that. It's about Guy and Eep and their new tomorrow. So he's not meant to be the star of this show. So I think what he does well. He's just not the focal point.
Yeah, I completely in agreement. He's outshone by Peter Dinklage's character.
Oh god,
but
yeah, 100%.
He's given that opportunity to outshine him, isn't it? It's not like Cage just fumbled his lines. It's just a case of the story is very much built around other characters. But what Cage does is he brings that depth of experience. I mean, so many times we've spoke about watching animated stuff with big name actors who clearly have never done voiceover work, and they just phone it in. And you cannot say that about anyone in this cast, to be perfectly honest. And Cage is as good as he's ever going to be with this kind of stuff. He wasn't outstanding, but it wasn't his job to be outstanding in this one. That was the job of other actors, and they did it well. So, as a facilitator, he did his job perfectly.
I mean, you mentioned that about big name actors again. Remember what happened with Dinklage in Destiny when he was a voice actor in that, and he was dropped and recast because he was so bad.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know it was him to start with. It was only afterwards when I looked into it more, the old trivia area and stuff. It never crossed my mind because I didn't look into it anything about it. It never crossed my mind that he was that character, which again is a great thing for him, really, because he's actually playing his body double, is he? Let's put it that way.
No, I mean that's one thing about Dinklage. He rarely plays to type. He isn't an actor that I think you can pigeonhole, to be honest, and he's got quite a range. I really like Peter Dinklage. I think he's great, and this goes back to Nip Tuck that we seem to mention semi-regularly on this this podcast, but like I think that was the first thing I saw him in. He was fantastic, and I've always followed his career since then. Right, finish the sentence then. If you enjoyed The Croods, A New Age, you might also like. Matt.
Well, of all of the themes going on, I think the female empowerment side was really fun, and I mentioned those cartoon-esque elements, and Stu mentioned Thundercats. So see Birds of Prey, the emancipation of Harley Quinn for that. I know, sorry, Stu, if that was yours. You're looking with a groan. But that element is as colourful and as extreme of characters. And it's very fun and an underrated film as well. So go see that.
I loved that movie. And also, weirdly, that's the film where what's his name? Hugh McGregor and Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Ramona Flowers got married on. And they just seem like such a weird couple. Like you wouldn't put them together, just bizarre. Sorry. Anyway, Stu, what's your answer to the question?
It's in that same universe and it is Wonder Woman for exactly the same reason that you just said.
Yeah, I see that. That's good. My answer, I'm keeping it in the animated sphere, and I'm going for a story about family and accepting who you are. And I'm going for this year's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem.
Fair enough.
It was the that's exactly what it is. It's about accepting yourself in the big bad world, and family, and like that's one of my favourite things about both Croods films. Really, was about the story of family, and it not turning into Fast and Furious parody with it. They did a really good job of making family appear to be a real, tangible thing, not just a catchphrase. So yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for me. Right, so that's another Nick Cage movie in the record books. If you've seen this one or any of the others we've ever discussed, get in contact. It's cagefightingpod@gmail.com on the emails, or at cagefightingpod at the socials. Please make sure you're subscribed on any podcaster that you're listening to us on. And if you could leave a review, we would love you forever. So finally, thank you very much for giving us your time this week. We really do appreciate you. For this week, Matthew, would you like to say goodbye?
Take it easy, everybody. Look after yourselves. If you've come across from Osmosis from Wolves Fancast, give us drop us a message. Let us know how you got in touch with the podcast, and have a great and profitable week ahead.
Stuart, would you like to say goodbye?
In my day, we didn't stare at birds. We fought them. Goodbye, everyone.
It's goodbye from me, and remember, be excellent to each other.